All right, thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you've been enjoying your time at the New York State Brewers Conference. We are here with John Cimperman of 42 North. He's got an extensive background in marketing and branding. He has ran marketing and branding for 4 professional sports teams, in addition to running a marketing agency with 50 employees, and I think he's got a lot of good information to help your brewery thrive.
You guys will figure that out when I'm done. Right? Thank you, Chloe. Thanks for drafting me to do this. I think there was an article in Brewer Magazine maybe 2 months ago, and they interviewed me on, how can you differentiate yourself? Where do you drive your brand? So yeah, as Chloe mentioned, I used to run the marketing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Los Angeles Kings, Philadelphia 76ers, and landed in Buffalo to run the marketing for the Sabres. Any Sabres fans here? It was the Dominic Hasek no-goal era. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then ran a 50-person or so ad agency, a lot of national clients, and then ended up selling the agency to follow my passion, which was craft beer. And a lot of people ask me, how do you go from marketing, branding into beer? And, for us, I tell folks we're in the community business, right? And when I was running the marketing for the sports team, we had 2 jobs. Put butts in seats and deliver good experience so people come back. And that's kind of been the whole theme of what I've been hearing all day, But seriously, driving people butts in seats, and then while they're there, giving them an experience. And whether it's a sporting event, whether it's a tap room, whether it's a music festival, it's all the same, right? So that's what got me into beer. Always been, and I tell our staff, we are not in the beer business. We're in the community business. Yeah, our product's beer, but we're really in the community business first and foremost. So I just wanted to talk a little bit, at least my thoughts on branding, and take it with a grain of salt. But this is some 25 years of my experience, and I'll share that with you, and then we'll. I really like to make this a little bit interactive towards the end. So this is our world, right? Consumer walks in, where the hell do they start? Even for us in the business, it can be a bit intimidating. Where do you start, right? And for me, it's when a customer walks in, I got to say, in my opinion is 8 years ago, it was all about the coolest, funkiest, out there label. That's what got noticed. Personally, I don't think that's the deal right now. I think it's about a label that tells a story, a label that can be trusted. If you're out there selling $25 4-packs with funky labels, awesome. Keep doing it. But, there's a lot of brands I've been talking about that are really focusing in on consistency. So when that customer walks in and sees this on the shelf, they see these labels or this family of labels, and they know what that brand and that brewery stands for. That's my soapbox on this. And I got to tell you, I'm the old guy at the brewery, and I've got a great young staff, and they're like, John, why can't we throw a flying monkey on our label? Why can't we, do this fun animated illustration? I say, oh, you mean like KCBC? Yeah, that's their brand. They do an awesome job with that. Let them stay in their lane. That's not where we're going. So we really focused on consistency in our brand so that when people see our brand, they know our story. So kind of with that, I'm going to pick on a few folks. Outside the beer business, what are 1 or 2 brands that you admire? Outside the beer business. By the way, you're next, so get ready. Okay.
Outside of beer business, brands that I admire,
Vans, cool, right, yeah. They've got a good, consistent story. When you think Vans, I immediately think Newport Beach. I think sand. I think skateboarding. You know what that stands for. And they do a great job at it. And I do think they stay in their lane, right? I told you I'd pick on you. Nike. And what comes to mind when you see the simple swoosh?
It's just the symbol is what everyone knows rather than, having their name everywhere. It's the swoosh.
Right.
But it's the backstory of them at Oregon.
Yep.
How they started from humble beginnings and now are just this huge behemoth.
Yeah. When I think Nike, I think of that great spot they had, 20 years ago about, this runner just running in the rain, right? And he might have been on Highway 1, but that's what I imagine from that brand. And again, to their credit, they stay pretty darn consistent. It would have been nice if Wieden and Kennedy built their brand. And I think Wieden and Kennedy, I think they got paid like $50,000 to develop the logo. I think they should have negotiated, how about 1 penny every time you use it? So, great example. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Nike too. So for me, it starts with, what is your North Star, right? If someone walks into the tap room and asks one of your tap keepers, what's 42 North's deal? They need to have that elevator speech. They need to know what our deal is. If they go like this, I don't know. It's not a good look. And I think that also, it's like, so for me, it's like, what's that, that mission statement? And it's kind of be an elevator speech. But here's what we do, and here's who we are trying to reach. Super simple. What is the North Star? How many folks here have a brand guideline book? We got a couple? All right. Yeah. And by the way, it says, for our brand guideline, because I'm an agency guy, we get into, here's all the fonts we can use, here's the colors, here's the way we're presented in social. But in my mind, even if it could be as simple as, what's our mission statement? Who's our target audience? I would recommend keeping consistent fonts on everything, so when people see it, they're like, oh yeah, that's that brand. And also, where you can, a consistent color palette. Just keep it as simple as that. If you don't have brand guidelines, get it down on paper. Someone brought up Nike. So here's their North Stars, right? Nike, our mission is to do everything to expand human potential. Everything in their advertising, everything in their product delivers that. Volvo's a good example too. They're really focused on safety, sustainability with their brand. And by the way, you're going to see, I talk a lot about other brands, and because I think we can learn from other categories, not just the beer category, and how can we relate those other brands to our brand. And then, Patagonia, that's a pretty small mission statement. Our business is to save the planet. Okay, that's pretty big. But guess what? They deliver on that with, their 1% back, and they deliver on that as a B Corp. They're delivering on that promise. So, but I think with this, and I guess I'll show you 42 North as well, but I think it's, and for me, and with our staff, I am really a super kind of macro manager, although my staff would probably argue with that, but I really think I am. And when a new employee comes on, I do have them, here's our mission statement, here's our values, and everything we do, whether it's a beer we make, or a poster we put out there, or a not-for-profit that we partner with, I don't want to get into the micromanagement of those things. But if it hits our DNA, and it's consistent with our mission, do it. But we just have to make sure it's in, quote unquote, our lane. So when it comes to 42 North, we're really focused on bringing adventure seekers together through celebration, experiences, and community. So for that is, as you'll see, we really focused in on skiers, mountain bikers, the outdoor active community. I was on the phone just a half hour ago with Western New York's largest RV dealer. They're like, we want to work with you guys. The people who are going into your place are our people. They want to buy Sprinter vans. So what can we do together? And by the way, it only took us 10 years to build that reputation, so it doesn't happen overnight. But so for 42 North, we're really targeted on bringing adventure seekers together. And I don't know if there's anybody here from, well, you're from Western New York. And a good example is if, kind of the largest ski resort in our region is Holiday Valley. They're our number one account, by far. 3 out of 8 draft lines at a ski resort. And part of it is, well, persistence, but part of it is, yeah, John, we see your brand aligns with our people, our skiers, and that was a big part of it. And again, it only took us 5 years to convince them to bring us on, but once we did, it's paid off. So that's a little bit about kind of where we try to stay in our lane. And and I'm looking at and I hate to say competitive set, because we're all in this industry together, but even in Western New York, there's different lanes for different breweries. And someone asked me, what do you love about the beer business? I'm like, you can go to 42 North and you can get this experience. You could go to Thin Man or CBW and get this experience. And they're both great, but they're different. And your expectations of that experience are different. So for us, here's some examples of what we do. A ton of live music, ton of bluegrass. We founded a music festival called Borderland, which has been great for our brand, and it's been great for that. We have a SKU. Our IPA is Borderland. It's somewhere around here. So for us, we do a lot of events that reach that active adult. It's fun. This on the upper left, that's at the top of the mountain at Holiday Valley. You probably can't see it, but there's people doing a stand-up paddleboard race while the band is playing. It's a really cool event. And then the event in the bottom right is our annual 42 North Brewski. We work with the state park in New York. 654 people pay $25 to walk 2 miles in the park, or in this case, these great ladies who brought out the skis, to sample 4 ounces of beer every quarter mile. 650 people pay to do that. It sells out 6 weeks in advance, because people know the weather in Buffalo is going to be crap in February, so they buy their tickets anyways. But again, that's just, that's kind of how we're trying to live our brand, by creating these really adventurous, funky events, and the music we play, and hopefully the people we attract are in that lane. And again, and I'll speak to, this is just what our brand's about, but I can use examples of other brands that might be more urban or might be more contemporary, and they do their things, right? The music, the vibe, the branding, the cans, all fits in that brand. So I'm not saying this is the way everybody should go. Now, 42 North is based 16 miles south of Buffalo in a funky little arts and crafts village called East Aurora, and within 2 miles there's single track biking, and there's state parks, and it's a really kind of funky town. So this fits our brand. If we were to take this to another community, it might not work the same way. Okay, this is the master's course. This is the master's course. So this is why you're drinking beer right now. Anybody know what this is called? It's a perceptual map. This is where, back in my ad days, I used to love these. These are perceptual maps. So you take different attributes of brands. And in this case, you do a lot of consumer research, and customers say where you fit on this map. So if you take a look at classy, distinctive in the upper right, you've got Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, right? That's what and everything they communicate says that. If you take a look at sporty and affordable, VW, Toyota. We have Chloe's car here, the conservative, classy Rolls Royce, which is great. That's your brand. But I do this because I think, and actually I'm working with a local college in Buffalo, Canisius College, to do a study like this with the brands that are in Western New York, and just to see where we stand, where the other guys stand. And when you look at something like this, and I guess I'm going to just kind of bring this down to what it could be for beer, right? As an example, and you can use these. So I have urban at the top and rustic at the bottom, and I've got traditional and innovative, which would be more kind of the style of beers you brew. And where is your brand, right? I think 42 North is down here in kind of rustic and slightly innovative. We don't do a lot of funky sours. We don't, we're really much more traditional lagers, West Coast style IPA. So I'm thinking our brand is here. And Morgan, maybe somebody like, let's pick, I'm going to pick, I love the guys at KCBC. I'm thinking they might be up here, right? A little bit more urban, a little bit more, what I'm trying to look here is you want to find somewhere your brand can stand out, right? If every brewery in Western New York is all rustic and traditional, you might not want your brand to be there. I'll tell you one thing, the one place you don't want to be is here. You don't want to be there because then you're a Ford or a Buick. Right? I mean, but nothing against Fords and Buicks. But, the point is, and I often say this to folks, is, if you try to be everything to everyone, you are nothing to everybody. And that is really true. If your brand doesn't stand for anything, if you're walking down the street and say, give me the first three words, what you think of when you hear 42 North, if they can't think of anything, you're sitting right here. You're sitting right here. I ask a lot of people, because I do that, what do you think of 42 North? Flannels, bluegrass, and the Borderland Music Festival. Cool. All right. I'll take that. But again, I just emphasize here, and again, it doesn't matter how small of a brewery you are or how large, just kind of stand for something, and then just be consistent. And it's taken us, we're 10 years old now. It's taken us 10 years for people to know what to expect from us. Like even these events that we produce, people will buy the tickets because they're like, oh, we just know you guys. We know what we're gonna get, right? We know we know the kind of music we're gonna get. We know the kind of beer we're gonna get. So I don't want to spend too much time on this quote unquote perceptual map, but kind of there's this term they say, find the blue ocean, right? Where can you own, and then stay in the lane. And I'll talk a little bit about. And here's 40. I love doing this exercise. I love doing this exercise with my staff. If 42 North were a band, we're the Avett Brothers. If we're a car, we're that Subaru, and if we're apparel, we're Mountain Hardwear. That's who we are, right? Anybody here from CBW or Thin Man? No? Okay. Because I wanted to ask them what they were, because they're not like us, but they've got their own cool thing. You with a brewery? No? Who? Well, you got the beard, you got the hat, the flannel, you're not with a brewery?
What about Sager? Paul, I'm calling you out.
Oh, okay. Paul, what band are you?
I don't think we're a band. We're like just a single acoustical guy. He's
So is it the Suitcase Junket? Have you ever seen him? He's the one-man band who plays every instrument? No? Okay. And what, don't tell me you're a Buick. Chloe, what do you think they are? Actually, it's less about what you think, it's more about what Chloe thinks. No, because you're the customer.
I mean, you have to be obviously like a German vehicle based on.
It's probably a foreign, some import.
It's a foreign import.
Probably European, some European import.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a Mercedes. Yeah.
You're Simon and Garfunkel.
No, he's just Simon. No.
There's another brewery that they share tap room space with.
Got you.
They obviously work together.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Morgan, I'm going to pick on you because you are in our market. I mean, is this what you think? 42? That's pretty on brand. Okay. Yeah. Where would you put? Is Jeff here? Where? What's Resurgence? What band are they? You're sitting up front. That's why. That's not good, Jeff. If you can't answer that, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
They're like a 90s alternative.
I think their Journey.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one because their brand is really kind of rah-rah Buffalo's Resurgence. You know, it's more of a cheerleader kind of, or you know what I mean? And that works for them. So it's just a fun exercise. I bring this up because it's something that I instill in my front of house staff, especially a little bit more with it, also with the brew team. I mean, you know, there's you know, I spend a lot of time my kids are both in Colorado, so I see what's happening in particular with West Coast IPAs back there, and a West Coast traditional piney IPA fits our brand. It really fits our brand. You know, a big, you know, pink Goza, maybe not right now, right? But you know what I mean? So we're identifying the products, but I do preach this to our staff, and I remind them when I walk in to the tap room and I hear Van Halen, is this on brand, people? So fun exercise. I encourage you guys to think about it yourself, but I get my best inspiration from brands outside of our category. Can they be a song? Sure. Yes, exactly.
Nailed it.
Yes. Resurgence is Mr. Brightside, exact. And great, and that's the thing, yeah. So kind of bringing it down to kind of brass tacks, what can we all do? You know, really hone in on who you are, who your target audience is, and this can be formal research, find out where you're at with the other brands in your community. It can also just be chatting with customers, but live your brand. What products? I mean, here's another thing. I mean, we're gonna head pretty far down sparkling hop water as a brand, and the big reason for that is we do a lot. I mean, if you're talking about our demographic, they're skiing, they're hiking, you know, they're hydrating, so that fits our brand. But produce products that are in your wheelhouse and really reinforce who you are as a brand. We're super into brand collaborations. we're big partners with the New York Mountain Biking Association. I brought up the relationship we have with the ski resorts. The not-for-profits, Rails to Trail, is a big partner of ours. There's a whole clean up the rivers in Buffalo that we're support them. So, we can't be all things to all people, but we do support in a big way those brands as well as those not-for-profits that are super connected to our demographic. The events that we produce and sponsor, we're heavy into music, especially kind of that bluegrass Americana vibe. So we do look for ways to sponsor those, or at least have our brand present. We sit down with our distributor and we fight about co-op dollars, and they're like, in Buffalo there's something called the Erie County Fair, which is 1 million people. And there's a small boutique music venue called Art Park. And we're like, we want to put our revenue, our co-op dollars against Art Park, because even though we might sell more beer in the short term at the Erie County Fair, our people are there listening to Chris Stapleton and Sturgill Simpson and those. So we want to invest our dollars there. So the events you produce and the events that you get involved with, sponsorship, whatever it may be, are important. And then last but not least, the taproom experience. I guess this is where I am a micromanager. Because when I walk in and, we have 2 or 3 Spotify channels that are ownership approved. And we're all, and I have so many people come, I've literally had customers coming up to us and say, what channel is this? Who is the artist? And in our case, it's like either Avits, Wood Brothers, Tyler Childers. That's kind of our vibe. And so we have literally, pre-approved playlists for our staff. We do a Wednesday night trivia. We might have an older crowd, I should say more locals, come in for trivia. We might go as far as CCR for that group, right? Kind of bridge that gap. But we're really focused on that taproom experience and making sure that it's consistent with our brand. The products, the music, the way we greet people, the way we hopefully upsell people, meaning, hey, while you're here, we have a concert that we're hosting next Friday, right? Come on down, come on back. So that's it. That's it for my pitch. In summary, identify other brands out there that you aspire to be, learn from them. Looking outside the beer category or the beverage category is a really good idea. And hang around people and brands and not-for-profits that kind of you share some DNA with. So.
Very interesting, thank you. I had a question. Full disclosure, I work for BMI, so this is where this question is coming from. When you feature live music, is it mostly connected to, quote, living your brand because music is a big part of who you are? Or do you look at live music from an ROI standpoint on a nightly basis? Like if you're bringing in a local bluegrass band, do you care if you make money on that band that night, or is it more about growing that brand?
Yeah. It's great, yes, because there's some like super popular cover bands in Buffalo. Strictly Hip, Nerds Gone Wild. They will pack the house. They'll probably go for $1,500 to $2,000 or more. I know they used to be 15. Anyways, you will never see those bands at 42 Market because we don't do cover, we don't do pop. It's just not our brand. I could make a lot of money that night. So we really focus on original Americana music. Probably, 80% of the songs that they perform in our tap room are what they wrote. Even I think you might have saw that photo of the 3 musicians. we do a monthly songwriter series. We stole this idea from the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. And they're talking about songs they wrote. So I guess, so the music that we bring, honestly, is more about reinforcing our brand positioning than it is about making a quick buck.
Yeah.
Because if I brought in Nerds Gone Wild, these guys dress up like nerds and they play 90s covers. The place is packed. Really off brand for us. It would not be a good look. But I think it works great at Resurgence. And they have great ice cream. So hopefully, yeah, so it's about, do I want to break even on the music and hopefully sell a few more beers? Absolutely. You know, and our ratio, in all transparency, is, you know, we really have to have an $8,000 day if we're gonna spend $800 on it. That's kind of our,
Well, thank you for shining a spotlight on songwriters. I appreciate it.
yeah. No, and there's some really great, and as you know, it's tough out there. The live music business has not come back
Yeah.
post-COVID. And these guys are struggling,
Yeah.
you know, and I got a call, there's a great local musician in Buffalo, David Miller, and he had a gig canceled, and he says, hey, can I just come play at your place? You know, give me a couple $100. Yeah, sure. Because we built that reputation. Oh, and by the way, here's what's great for all you guys with the music side, is every music club in Buffalo. And I'm gonna throw names out there you may not know. Michi's, Sportsman's Tavern, Buffalo Ironworks. They all feature our beer on draft. And part of the reason is they know we support local original musicians. So I can walk in there and say, hey, you know, and they don't see us as a competitor, thank goodness. They don't see us as a competitor. And if you do go to our website, you'll see under stories or blog, we did a whole, we did 8 vignettes featuring the 8 biggest music venues in Western New York. And coming out of COVID, saying, go to Jackrabbit and listen to live music and have a Borderland IPA. Go to, and that gave us real cred for music venues. And again, it aligns with our brand well. We're supporting local musicians, and we are selling beer without having to pay for placement.
Awesome.
Yep, Matt, yep.
Yeah, I'm just curious, we're from a very rural area, and, you know, our brand is basically, we're on a family farm, and it was always farm, family, and community, basically, is our brand, and that's what we try to do. Saying that, we've switched marketing strategies, and we've done everything. We've been in business just 5 years. We opened 2 weeks before COVID hit, and in a very rural area in New York. And my question is, how has your brand always been the same?
Great question.
When you started, did you have an idea of this is who we're marketing to,
Yeah.
you know, and this is what we're going to do?
Yeah.
We're just, you know, I think you said you're from Buffalo.
Yeah, we're
So you get a
18
bigger-
miles out of Buffalo.
Yeah, a bigger audience, kind of. I find myself
Yeah.
trying to constantly market to different people while trying to
Yeah.
stay true to our brand.
Yeah, great question, and we have evolved. You know, as background, our first brewer, I met him on the mountain bike trails. So we had that outdoor thing in our DNA, but when we started, 42 North we were a little bit more kind of geographic. We were all about place. The 42nd parallel is where all the hops in New York State are built, are grown. Right. So the 42nd parallel runs through the Finger Lakes. It was our hop growing region. Our brand was really tied to that geography and sepia tones. You know, it was nice, it was classy, but it wasn't emotional enough. So we have evolved, and we updated our color palette. Our logo evolved. It's always had a little bit of a compass, but it's evolved to be brighter. So we absolutely evolved over 3-4 years, and I think the brands do need to evolve. You know, this may not work with the alpha generation. Who knows what's gonna work? But I think brands have to evolve. And, you know, we talked a little bit about some brewery rebrandings. You know, it could be a revolution or an evolution. You know, I've always leaned towards an evolution. Keep some of the elements of the brand and just update the color palette, update the fonts, even on packaging. You know, people know, oh, something changed. But you don't want to, personally, you don't want a radical change, because if they were looking for that Borderland IPA and if they don't recognize it, you know, that could be a detriment. So we have definitely changed. We've definitely changed. I think we've leaned much more into music, but the people who listen to, I'll say, Americana, also mountain bike and ski, and they drink beer. So for us, that all kind of made sense. I've seen Paul at quite a few infamous String Dusters concerts over the years. Yeah,
So do you think that evolution was driven by your customer base then?
I think it was.
Kind of like a flagship beer can be determined by your customer base, right? So-
Absolutely, I think it was. I mean, it probably even changed. We evolved it in 4 years. I mean, if you saw some of our old branding, you'd still recognize it. But we are more kind of sepia tone and do a lot of maps of the region. And it's just time to update it. You know, we have a template for our core beers. So every of our 6 core beers all fall in the same template. And if we're lucky enough to have 4 of those on at the same time at Wegmans, it looks great. We do some funkier stuff with our one-offs, just because, still on brand. Yeah.
How do you track the return on investment from like a brand change or an update or something like that? Do you
Yeah.
just let it fly? Do you track it? How do you
A great question. I
see
mean,
how it works?
part of it is, I mean, at the end of the day, it's, are we selling more beer, are we getting into more accounts? So I think when we updated our packaging, the first thing we had to do was get our distributor excited, and they were, because they liked something new to talk about. And then we met with each of our key retailers saying, here's what's coming down the pike. So hopefully you'll order that same or more amount going forward. So for us, it was getting our trade excited, our trade people excited. And for us, after that, the ROI is, are we moving more beer? And, you know, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. So yeah, for me, it's, you know, and then as far as, you know, we're really focused on, we do produce and create some of our own events, and I'm talking like 400-person concerts. But, you know, we're selling 400 tickets to a concert, and, you know, we're selling 2.5 beers per person. And there's, you know, we're producing events that are making money. It's a new revenue stream for us, creating these events. And each of those events reinforces the brand, right? So it all works really in synergy.
What's the footprint of your place?
Tap room is, our building is 17,000 square feet, 4,000 of which is our tap room. And here's probably the coolest thing about our space is we built 4 Airbnbs into the brew house. And if I could trade the beer business for the Airbnb hotel business, I probably would. Meaning those things are sold out 6 months in advance. So we have 4,000 square foot tap room, roughly, you know, 10,000 square foot brew house, and then 400 square foot Airbnbs built in. Kind of create a nice little campus down there. Yeah. And hopefully now with the weather breaking, people will be outside.
How important do you think that you hired that, like the person that you hire and put in the tap room, like do you put them on brand point when you're going through that recruiting process?
No, no, because half of my tap keepers don't like bluegrass Americana music.
I don't have anyone to.
and they get really sick of it after 8 hours. But I said, we're not playing the music for you, people. Yeah, no, so it's, they don't all ski or mountain bike. Some of them are absolute big-time homebodies. But they wear our gear when they're behind the bar, and they know our story, they know our brand, and then they can go listen to Journey or whatever. Yeah, so it'd be great if, we do get some employees that are attracted to us because of that, but that's in no way, a requirement. Yeah, I walk in when they're getting set up, and trust me, they're not playing the playlist.
Do you think that it's possible, branding wise, to sort of pigeonhole yourself? So like, I'm from Long Island, and our vibe, our motto is real beer, no bullshit.
Right.
We're kind of a rowdy bunch, we lean into that. St. Patrick's Day month is huge for us. But we also don't want to be pigeonholed and just looked at as just,
Right.
the place that you buy beer. But like, we're also very much like a working men and women's brewery. So like, we do events like, fishing talks and like all sorts of different things. But it's something that we've been wrestling with,
I guess I would ask the question first, what's the size of the market around your brewery of people who are also into that?
Yeah.
And if there's 5,000 of them, whatever, and you are their preferred place, that's awesome, because you're not everything to everybody.
Yeah.
If there's 50 people who are into that, you're all in on those 50, you might want to broaden that out. And I think for us, where we're located, we're on the route to the ski hills. There's enough people in Western New York that mountain bike and like the beer that it's big enough for us, right? Market size. But it's not for everybody. We'll get customers that'll come in and like, what's this? Or they're like, sorry, that's what we are. But there's a nice bar down the street that carries their beer has a different thing going on. And then our food, we have a restaurant in residence on the food, and it's barbecue. That box, big option. So that whole food thing is also really consistent with the brand, so that works out. Anything else? Yep.
If your mission statement didn't come about like organically opening the brewery, what process would you recommend?
Yeah, I did. It's evolved as well.
Okay.
It's evolved as well. So that evolved over the last few years. But our original mission statement, which is on the wall painted in the brewery, is really it's our kind of our tenets, right? It's quality, authenticity, and collaboration. Those three words are in the employee guide, are on the wall, painted. Quality, authenticity, and collaboration. And again, when I tell our employees, go make your own decision, just make sure it's tied around being authentic, being real, right? Quality, whether it's how you interact with customers or the products you produce, as well as collaboration. We're so big into collaborations. As I think everybody here is big into collaborations. But so that's still there. And then I tightened this up just from more of a marketing kind of communication and who we're trying to reach.
And did you get it more from your team and your staff, or more from your marketing?
Yeah,
partners?
well, I think it's close. I used to run an ad agency, and I have, we've got such a lean staff. Morgan knows how lean our staff is. Yeah. But I do have a great network of freelance creative talent who do our label design, do my event posters. A lot of these people used to work with or for me, so we do a lot of our creative via freelancers. But I have that brand guideline that shows, here's the fonts, here's the colors, here's the kind of imagery. And it could be a freelancer who I just met. I would give them this brand Bible, and it's okay, come back, but it has to, yeah, I was just talking to the guys doing some apparel for us. I said, I'm gonna give you my brand guidelines and see what you guys can come up with, but it's gotta be our logos, our fonts, our colors. So, but I get it, you know, I will say, I think our brand is bigger than we are. I mean, yeah, the tap room's large, but, you know, we're doing 3,500 barrels as a brewery. You know, we'd like to do 6, 7, 8, but we'll get there someday. But I think for me, it's, hopefully our brand is strong enough so that when we do expand to new markets, our following will go with it. Anybody else? It's time for another beer.
Thank you, John.